right, so welcome everyone. Please do take a seat. A couple of announcements before we get started with this afternoon's presentation. This is the room for strategies for developing self-sufficiency fund and skills development fund grants. Love grants. Have some more folks rolling in. Come on in, folks. Chairs abound. I'd love you up front, but make yourself comfortable. While you guys are getting situated, I do want to make an update about parking. So there was an update earlier, and now there's an update to the update. If you had a reservation here, you'll only be charged once today, $5. But if you're like a come and go, because you live here like me, they're going to do charging for the morning and the afternoon. So that's the last update I got, like around 11. So if anything changes, we will let you know. Also, before I forget at the end, because things get going and so excited in the presentation, if you are VRC or you need in any other discipline your CEUs, the table is at the opposite end of this building by the Phoenix room, where we were yesterday and where some of you might have been today. And please do at the end, and if I get a chance, I'll repeat it. There is an electronic survey that you're going to receive. Please fill it out, complete it. We actually do read them and take suggestions and improve every time we do a forum or a conference, so please do that. It only takes a couple of minutes. Alrighty then. Am I forgetting anything? No, not for now. So I'm going to go ahead and hand over to our presenters, and they will do the introductions. But again, if there's a fire, just kidding. I will lead you out. I know where the exits are. I know where the fire extinguisher is and all that, but holler if you need anything. And, questions. If you could wait until the end of the presentation, that would be preferable. And if you have a question, I'd love to come and give you the microphone a la Phil Donahue style, but people usually don't want to wait. So speak loudly at the end if you could, or just let me bring the mic to you. All right, come on in, y'all. All right, the floor is yours. I appreciate you.
Okay. Can y'all hear me? Whoa. Okay. I'm Kristie Caviness, and I work for the Outreach and Employer Initiatives Division. And within that division, we have the Employer Engagement and Community Outreach team. We are the team that move around the state of Texas and work with businesses, EDCs, workforce boards, and community colleges, community and technical colleges, to put grants together for workforce training. This presentation came about specifically because I was asked for additional information about Self-Sufficiency Fund last year. So it is of interest. We wanted to make sure that we covered it. There is a copy of the PowerPoint online that has been up for a while. I did change one slide, and I'll make note of that. The slide that you have in the deck from before is a little more detailed than the one I've got here because it's got too much stuff on it. I thought it would be hard to read, so we condensed it. I'll go ahead and get started. We talked about, or I just mentioned the fact that my team goes around and works on workforce development grants. We have a variety of programs: Skills Development Fund, Skills for Small Business, Self-Sufficiency Fund. Thanks. I like to move. Self-Sufficiency Fund, High Demand Job Training, Texas Industry Partnership, and the new Upskill Texas Pilot, which I'll talk about near the end of the presentation. Did want to show our mission, just so you know. This is why we do what we do, delivering resources and solutions for employers to upskill the Texas workforce, facilitate business growth, and enhance our economy. So my partner in crime today is Miss Reba Bacon. She has been on this team 6 years, oh my gosh, 9 years. So she is the veteran, but she is also over The Self-Sufficiency Fund, we all promote it. She's got the knowledge in the background to make those projects work. I'm going to turn it over to her and let her tell you guys about Self-Sufficiency Fund.
Good evening, everyone. So we're going to start out talking about the Self-Sufficiency Fund. The purpose of this grant program is designed to provide an opportunity for nonprofits, which are community-based organizations in your local community, to partnership either with a community college or technical college and provide training to individuals that are underemployed, low income, or unemployed together. So low income, we look at those individuals with opportunities that are identified as low income, and I define the definition with that very shortly, which is TANF, individuals that are receiving benefits in one of these categories, either TANF, SNAP, CHIP, CCDF, WIC, and WIOA opportunities. Go back one more time, please, and then we can look at the purpose of the program. That's okay. So the whole goal is to make sure these individuals receive training that's leading them to an occupation that will allow them to become and remain self-sufficient or able to provide a better living for themselves without public assistance needs. I'm going to start out right away with the grant requirements because to me that's very important. So one of the things is about the grant requirements is that the cost for trainee is $2,500 per person. That means you can provide training to those individuals $2,500 per person. The awarded amount for this grant can go anywhere up to $500,000. And you can do a lot with that. A lot of training with that total project, per project. Our typical term for a grant is 12 months. We try to make sure you identify clear career pathways. So if you're deciding to go into welding and providing a welding, we want you to identify the clear pathway from welder level 1 all the way up to a journeyman on how that may look as well. And I'll show you some examples later on. We want you to identify anticipated wages, provide letters of support. Letters of support is our way to make sure that you're training in high demand occupations for that region, that board region. So it's very important that we just don't offer training because we don't want them back out in the workforce solutions office saying, I'm unemployed, I got all this training, but I'm unemployed. We want you to specifically identify those high demand target occupations for that board region so they can be getting trained in occupations that the board has identified that they need people to fill with that certain skill sets right away. So that's very important. And then we want to make sure that you know that 10% of the administration costs is allowable and it's 10% of the direct training costs. So if your grant amount is $200,000, then 10% of that is $20,000. You can apply 20% of the $20,000 to your administration costs. Who are eligible to participate in this grant and receive that grant? Then your applicant would be a nonprofit 501c3 community-based organization, a public or technical college, or TEKS. These are the eligible participants to apply for this grant, as well as your training partners.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm too fast.
He's taking pictures. Excuse me. Your eligible participants for this grant are individuals that we have identified earlier for low income. We have TANF recipients, SNAP, youth up to the age of 24 years old who are living in a low income family household. We also look at individuals of low income, whether they are living in a custodial or non-custodial household with a minor child. Right now, our commission is still trying to define what that low income level salary range is for them. Previous, it was $35,000. So if anybody was making $35,000 or less, with a dependent child living in the household with them, then they will be eligible to participate as a trainee. We're talking about trainees. This is the eligibility for the trainees. Target industry clusters. These are all the target industry clusters that you can train in, either core or support occupations. So let's take one, for example, biotechnology and life science. And you're saying, wow, Reba, that's kind of steep for someone that has no experience or no education. Well, we look at the support occupations in biotechnology. And for example, for that, we look at the healthcare industry. So we look at your RNs, LVNs, CNAs, your phlebotomists. These are all support occupations in biotechnology. So if someone in your community, let's say a med care clinic, is in dire need of 5 phlebotomists, you can train them on the biotechnology and life science and offer that training. Most phlebotomist training is about 4 to 6 weeks. They get their industry certification, and you're required to make sure they're placed into a full-time occupation. Information computer technology is mostly self-explanatory. Advanced technology and manufacturing, we look at certified production techs in that. Aerospace and defense is a little bit steep. You have some more occupations that we could look into. I've done several projects in the West Central Texas area where we allowed the nonprofit to train individuals that deal with the windmill solar system, windmill solar. And I forgot the proper occupation title, but they were techs that went out on the windmills that are out there in the windmill farms, and they have to work with those blades when they break down and stuff. So we allowed them to train under the aerospace defense tech cluster for that. Next slide, please.
All right.
So, strategies for a successful project. Here are just a few highlighted strategies. Of course, there are more. And I'll be your point of contact along with my team members to help you develop a very successful project. And we're not in the business of just developing a project. We're in the business of making sure that project is successful from the beginning, which is the beginning of the initiation of the project to the cradle, to the end. So, one of the things, main points is we want you to walk away with is placement. Not only is it easy to get the grant, and make sure you identify the high demand occupations for your ward region, but at the end of this grant, we want you to make sure you place them into full-time occupations relevant to what you're training in. So if you're doing welding training, and John decides at the end of his training, I want to go work at Walmart, that will not count towards your grant. If they decide they want to leave welding and go into teaching, that will not count towards your grant. So we want to make sure that you place them relevant to the training that you train in. Let's say, for instance, Lisa decides that she wants to be a phlebotomist, and she gets her certification. She lives in Houston, but Lisa gets a call and she has to move to Mississippi. Can that still count if she gets a job as a phlebotomist in Mississippi? The answer is yes, it can still count. Because Texas is big on making sure we provide skilled workers not only in the state of Texas, but across the United States, so we will let that count. So we want to make sure that you complete the training, they receive their industry certifications, and they are placed into a full-time occupation at the end of their grant term, which is 12 months. Here is a cluster that I want to show you of a career pathway. So they may start out in this training at the entry-level position as a home health aide, or they may start out as a personal care tech. And as you can see, this person was able to identify if they leave either one of these levels, they go into continuing education, they're going into a certified nurse's assistant. This is a CNA. They'll be making $27,000 a year. If they go up another level, they can go as a licensed practitioner making $44,000 and $66,000 or more as a registered nurse. Now, why is that important? Early on, I told you we want you to identify those career pathways. This is a career pathway. And my director is a stickler on making sure that we have those projects identifying those clear pathways. She's gonna look for that, because that's letting her know we're meeting our statutory guidelines that is stated in statute. We must make sure that they're meeting those guidelines to become self-sufficient and remain self-sufficient. And that's identifying that pathway. Next, yes, you have a question, sir?
Yes, ma'am. What do you mean by the placement? That, I don't know, I have a connotation in my head. Could you describe what that involves?
Placement, okay, job placement, that's what I mean. So after you finish training, you train this individual to be a personal care aide, then we want you to make sure you place her into an occupation that does personal care aid services, that is offered through the hospital or your unit care clinics across your city.
So do you do the connection
We,
with the employer, that kind of, or do they do the connection with the employer?
very good question. The applicant would be the one to make that connection, not I. That's a very good question, thank you. I think we did that one.
Yes, you did.
So, another thing, other strategies for a successful project, we want you to make sure you have a clear, concise summary of the proposed training project. That includes making sure the applicant is collaborating with the local business to determine those training needs, as well as to identify the job skill sets curriculum that's relevant to that training. And then letters of support. The letters of support help us, as I stated earlier, to identify those open positions. And so what we want you to do with that business, so if you go to med clinic and you says, well, I'm gonna train individuals in phlebotomy, and the med clinic HR person says, well, we have 5 open positions. Thank you. Can you provide me a letter of support, please, on your company letterhead? Just make sure it identifies the number of open positions you have as that phlebotomist. Make sure you identify the type of industry certifications that your business accepts, whether it be the National Association of Nursing, or whether it be the state association. But if it's state required, I'm gonna ask you for industry required once you send it to me, because we don't want them to only be state certified, we want them to be able to work nation. And then the certifications, and then they must have an open statement saying that they support you enter into the grant with the Texas Workforce Commission for a self-sufficiency bond project. Any questions? That's a lot in it.
Is this, I heard you mention doing phlebotomy and welding. Do you guys focus on the high skill, high growth occupation list?
Yes, that's exactly, yes, yes.
That are relevant to
We're relevant to those
self-sufficiency
industry
is?
clusters, relevant to those industry clusters that we identified earlier. There was advanced technology and manufacturing, biotechnology, life science, computer industry technology, construction, logistics, transportation. So you may have a CLA. A CLA is a certified logistics assistant. And that is a very good job for a person that may want to work in a warehouse. MSSC is a industry certification that offers that, and it's 4 to 6 weeks. Pearson VUE has a new industry certification for individuals that want to go in and receive their CompTIA certifications. CompTIA is a very unique computer credential, but it's difficult to understand and grasp if you don't have no background or knowledge of it. So Pearson VUE has created this new Microsoft industry certification that will help you as a beginner course. And then you can take that up front and then go into the CompTIAs, fundamental, A+, cloud, you know them all. Yes, next question.
How long does a trainee have to be in occupation for reimbursement?
So the answer to that is 12 months.
Okay.
12 months. Next, any more questions? I think we, sure.
If a business provides a letter of support, does that create any commitment with the business to the graduates, or do they get to, is there anything beyond saying there's a demand for the job?
Oh, that's a very good question. Thank you. Thank you. So, he's asking the letter of support, does it make it a commitment between the business and that trainee, or does it make it a commitment to the business and Texas Workforce Commission? The answer to the latter is no. It's not an MOU between us and the business. But what it does do, that letter of support helps the nonprofit and the business say, oh, we have these many open jobs over here, so I'm training them. And our position is, you have identified the need, so let's make sure you're training at least that many, okay? Now, it is not an MOU, so it's no commitment. The business does not have to hire these individuals, okay? But that's why we ask you for 3 letters of support, because General Hospital, Dale Hospital, and Northeast Medical may all have 20 positions or more in phlebotomists. But at least you have told me that you're gonna train 40 people in phlebotomy. And if all 3 hospitals have identified at least 20 positions, that's 60. So I see the high demand for a phlebotomist. So that's meeting the need. So whether they go with either 3 of those hospitals or decide to go to Houston and work in a phlebotomist position, the demand has already been shown, and so therefore we see that as a great opportunity for them to be trained and placed.
Regarding the budget
Sure.
proposal, do you have to spend all of that? If you don't, is it a return on those? Is that, you understand? Is-
Our money is reimbursable, cash drawdown, okay? So when there's a budget form, you complete, and I'll help you do that, you know, when you apply. And so, say for instance, you're going to identify, because it's itemized, so per course, per number of people, how much that course costs. Support services, which you all call wraparound services. We look at that, right? And you can, there are some costs that are allowable, there are some costs that are not allowable. We'll get into the weeds of that as you submit your project. For the time's sake of this presentation, I won't go into the details. But we look at all of that. If you're a community-based organization, we're gonna wanna make sure you have your 501c3 status through IRS. Okay? If you're a church wanting to do the training, make sure your status is 501c3 and not just 501c. That's very important. And then your license and certification, we want you to verify if you're a nonprofit organization that does training. Well, we need to make sure that if NCCR is stated that you can offer their training, we want to see that certification from NCCR that says that your organization is authorized to do their training, as well as signed certifications. We have a very short presentation at the end of this that I want you to see. And then at the end of this, this is a young lady out of Houston. And I'm gonna give you a little details about her background. She was homeless, you all. She was on drugs. It was cold and rainy one day in Houston. She was sitting outside in front of the Workforce Solutions office. She decided to go in to get out the cold weather, rainy weather. And the gentleman, the nonprofit, had his table set up with a display, training in various construction occupations at no cost to you. And she was getting coffee out. She came out to the restaurant, she was getting coffee, and she looked at the table, and she asked him, she said, "You mean that?" And he said, "Yeah." She said, "Are you sure it ain't gonna cost me nothing to get this training?" He said, "No." He said, "Here's my business card, here's a map to my school, check us out." She went over to the school, and here's her testimony.
Bear with me.
And today she's still working. This happened in 2016.
Thank you.
My name is Keitha Berthia, and I was accepted into the Houston Launchpad 2017. There, I received certifications to help me get into the construction work field. I gained a certification in NCCR training. I got a OSHA 10 certification. I got a core.
Okay, I got all excited.
You know what to do?
Sorry. You only get to hear the story.
Click that and maybe it'll work.
I think, but this is for the. Hold on one sec. She also told me she put in favorites.
No, you're fine. Hopefully you'll get to see it. If not, I can direct you to the YouTube. But, it's a great opportunity. Why don't you click this red, yeah, click it over here. Where's the clicker? Let's try it here. As you can see, I didn't get my certification.
In the browser, in the Google window.
Okay, I've got to get out of this.
Oh, okay,
My name is Keitha Berthia, and I was accepted.
Get our IT person.
Brittany.
Come figure it out.
I will have to.
We'll get it working.
It's Kathita.
Let me go see the text.
Martini? Yes, Mike, you sit down chilling. Come on now, help us out.
So if it's running here, but it's not transferring there.
Okay, so this is the actual.
Right. So here it is.
It's playing, but it's not showing on here.
Okay. So go back. Oh, there you go. And then. Okay.
That's what.
Let's see. All right.
So that's, she put it in there 3 different ways. The link is also down here. Maybe that works. Maybe it has to be out of the presentation mode.
My name is Keitha Berthia, and I was accepted into the Houston Launchpad 2017. There, I received certifications to help me get into the construction work field. I gained a certification in NCCR training. I got a OSHA 10 certification. I got a core certification. They also placed me with a job with Almeida Genoa Constructors, where I went in making about $16 an hour. And with my certifications, experience, and knowledge from the school, I went to $19 an hour within 3 months. I stayed there 3 years, and I enjoyed every day of it. Going to work was like not going to work because I enjoyed my job. I was able to operate the forklift, I operated excavators, I operated all the equipment out there. I loved it, and it's all because of Houston Launchpad.
She's one of our success stories. That's just an individual. So this grant is not only about training, it's about changing lives. We were able to change this young lady's life. She was able to gain her children back, and she was able to start back providing for her family. So that's what it's all about. We're trying to help individuals regain who they are, and at the same time remain and become self-sufficient if they are not. And And that's the end of self-sufficiency. If you have additional questions, we have additional documentation of all our grant programs and information up here. Now I'm gonna turn it back over to Kristie, and she's gonna talk to you about our premier grant program, which is Skills Development Fund. Thank you.
Thanks, Reba. I love the stories. It's always the best part of it. I wanted to briefly chat about Skills Development Fund, and then we also have a new program that I also wanted to take a second. Can y'all hear me? No. There's the microphone. All right, so I'm not sure if you're familiar with the Skills Development Fund or not, but the purpose of it is to provide customized training funds for a business or a consortium of businesses or a trade union. And the goal primarily is to increase the skill levels and the wages of the Texas workforce. Workforce boards are now eligible applicants. I just want to make that known again. And we have talked about trying to put together some additional webinars for training if there is enough interest from the workforce boards to learn more about how to put a project together. The grant details, it's an average cost per participant of $2,000. It is customized training that is specifically designed to fit the business's needs. Training is for full-time W-2 employees in the state of Texas. 12-month grant term, single business project can go up to $500,000. Some third-party training is allowed, and equipment can be purchased if there are multiple businesses within the project. Who can provide the training? Public or technical colleges, public, community, or technical colleges, the Texas Engineering Extension Service, TEEX, third-party trainers, and internal training. There are in some cases, the grant can subsidize the internal SMEs for training on a limited basis only. Eligible applicants, community and technical colleges, workforce development boards, Texas A&M TEEX, and community-based organizations in partnership with one of the three above. Requirements for a successful SDF. I just kind of hit the highlights on some of the details that we look for when we're putting a project together. So a mix of new and incumbent jobs in a high growth, high demand occupation. There is active collaboration between the college, the business partner, and TWC. That business involvement is critical for the project to be successful. There is a combination of business and general technical training that must comprise at least 75% of the project. And then, and specifically, that is operational training for the business, or like logistics and support would be for general technical. Non-technical training, more soft skills, that is allowed up to 25% of the project. At least 50% of the training needs to be done by the community college. And then additional considerations, the employees need to be paid during the training. There should be an 85% of the trainee retention for 60 days after the training. Businesses must be up to date on all UI insurance to TWC. There is a prevailing wage that must be met, 25th percentile of the wages in the workforce board area. An average of 1% wage increase for incumbent workers is expected at the end of training, and management job titles are not allowed to participate. Those are primarily your C-suite or your, I use the term managers who are managing other managers. This is primarily targeted to that lower or mid-level employee. We want to raise them up so they make more money, move up in the company, and do better. I'm including this, and I won't get into the weeds with it, but I always get asked, how long does it take? What's the process? And I mentioned earlier that there is a chart on the presentation that's on the website, and it has more detail in it. But typically, we like to say 60 to 90 days. 90 days is probably more in the that's probably more realistic in time frame. Specifically, hold on, I can't read. Step one basically is the collaboration between the program specialist, which is the outreach person in your area, with the college or the trainer, along with the business to talk about the customized training. From there are some forms that need to be completed. Specifically, the first one is a preferred provider information form, what we call it PPIF. And that's where the business, that's pretty much the only one that the business is really helpful, or that needs to be included in the filling out of the application. So it's their business specific information. And then there is some detail on wages and SOC codes, which are the occupational codes for those positions that are going to be trained. And we obviously help you through all of that from the workforce board standpoint and or the college standpoint. There's also a budget form, course description, signed MOU, which is also very important, along with an application. So step 3, the outreach person will guide and provide technical support and feedback on all of the documents. Step 4, all of the documents are completed. There is some back and forth between the step 3 and step 4, but that all goes to the evaluation team after that. The evaluation team reviews all the documents, so you can see how all this takes a little time to get all the way through. They may have additional questions, so there may be some back and forth there as well. From there, it goes to division leadership, and then on to TWC leadership, and there's several steps in that process. So after that has been signed off on, then we consider the project awarded, and we will notify the applicant that the project has been awarded. After that, there is probably another 4 to 6 weeks for the actual contracting. So the contract goes through several stages to be executed, signatures and all of that. But I did want to bring this up because I get asked this question all the time. But like I said, the one on the website is way more detailed. Okay, now for the fun thing. So this was, I want to say it's about a month ago, 4 or 5 weeks ago, the commission approved a new pilot program called Upskill Texas. This is specifically designed, the word rapid response is what keeps coming up, but it's for businesses that need training right now. So it may or may not include customized training, but it probably does include some sort of a training program they have already used, chances are. The eligible applicants in this case, which is different than Skills Development Fund, the private, nonprofit, or for-profit businesses, including public healthcare organizations. So your businesses can apply for this directly. They can also appoint a designee, a third-party trainer, a college. We've already had that submitted as a designee for some businesses. So as long as the business has allowed the designee to be the applicant, which simply means they're going to be the ones that are responsible for all of the paperwork on the back end, they can provide the training and the grant application. Okay, eligible businesses must have at least 100 employees. So this is for medium and large businesses only. Where the primary goal is to train incumbent workers, so they have to be in there 6 months or more. And then they need to, the business needs to provide at least 50% of the training costs. And those costs can be wages, benefits, in-kind, cash contributions, something along those lines. So at 50%, they have to match 50% of what they're asking for the training. Additional details. This is also different from Skills Development Fund. All SOC codes are eligible. There is not a prevailing wage check. You don't need to do that. There will be wage information necessary that you'll have to supply that, but they don't have to meet the 25th percentile of the prevailing wage. The awards will range from starting at $150,000 to $500,000, and the training must be 100% business technical. So that is specifically related to the business, not general skills, not non-technical skills, specific training for that business. And because it's a pilot program, it's not a forever thing, so applications are due by June 5th, and we are literally standing by, ready to help. If you know of businesses that could use this type of funding for training, we're happy to jump on calls. We've already been on many, so we're happy to help from that standpoint. This falls into the commitment to you. We just want to make sure you know that we're here to help you put these projects together and get this funding. This has such a tremendous impact on communities if their employees and businesses can elevate those folks up in the, I guess, in the food chain, for lack of a better word. So I put on here, our highly trained and experienced team will provide support, but we're here just to answer questions if you need that. This is the new and exciting Employer Engagement and Community Outreach Team map. All of the documents that we've referenced up here are across the back. I will also say there is a program that lists out all of the different grants up here, and there are business cards. Mine and Reba's business cards are up here, or you can stop by the booth and find out who your outreach team member is and pick up their card. On the back of the business card is a QR code. When you scan this, it will pull up the updated OEI grant opportunities. It's called a one-pager, but it's two. And then, but the map is up here. An Upskill Texas flyer is up here. Please feel free to take these too if you want to give these to businesses to help explain the program. The other thing that's up here are some helpful tips for all of the programs that we have available through the EECO team. Questions? Because we're done. Okay, you're mouthing to me, and I can.
I'm sorry, I said yeah. So we have a few of our team members here today, and I just want to introduce them to you right quickly. So Kristie.
Thank you.
I'm not new.
Nestor Lopez. He is our new South Texas outreach team member. Doing a great job already, coming in like a ball of fire. Tabitha Reeves is our new East Texas outreach team member. It's weird, the dynamics are weird. And then Echo Hendricks is our new Central Texas outreach team member. We don't have the full team here, but these guys are here. Seth Green, who handles the DFW area, is here. Robert Andrade, who is not in the room. He's probably man in the booth. So y'all go see him. But anyway, he does the high demand job training and Texas industry partnership grants with the workforce boards, which many of you have, some of you have worked with him on that. Natalie Gonzalez is in Houston. Megan Franklin is West Texas. And then Reba's territory is also, it's like Northwest Central Texas, but the little map can show you. And all of the contact information, so call us and pester us. We really would love to chat with you because we still have money to get out. That's all I have, unless y'all have questions.